Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to our Points of the Paint podcast talking WCC basketball. This week, once again, we're sponsored by Hell of a Good Dip. Dave Flemming, Sean Farnham. Sean, they invited us back for week two. It's
I
with
know.
me.
I'm as shocked and as surprised as you, Dave. But I would figure with the professionalism of one David B. Fleming and the love of Hell of a Good Dip, which is great on Sundays for NFL or Tuesday nights for WCC action. We'll enjoy the dip while we enjoy some great basketball.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk to about tonight. We have results from last week, a look ahead to this week, and we told you we're going to try to get a guest every week on this show, and we have the head coach of the St. Mary's Gales, Randy Bennett. In fact, Randy is with us, ready to go now. So we're going to dive right into that. Hell of a good dip, hell of a good coach. I've said it over the years many, many times about Randy Bennett. He knows how I feel about him. He's one of the best in the business. I'll pull back the curtain a little bit, Sean, and just say early in the season, I'm in Texas doing football. You're going back and forth doing studio. Conference play is starting. It's a long way of saying, Randy, I appreciate you carving out a few minutes for us with a weird schedule. It's nice to see your face.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on. Looking forward to it, and I know we're all busy, so it all works. It's good.
I'm gonna let Sean jump in here, but last week you probably didn't get a chance to listen to our first ever episode of the podcast, but I did. I called you Cranky Randy because I had noticed like lately, just watching some of your games and listening to you after games talk. You've been a little feisty, and I think that's kind of how you like it sometimes. Like you coach your kids pretty hard. You have a high standard. Is that fair to say that early in the season things have been a little up and down?
I don't know. It's been a pretty good start. We've lost to three good teams. We've been choppy, I guess. I think we've been up double digits in every game but one. But we're up on UT San Antonio 23 in the first half, and that game went into overtime. So I think that's I don't want to use the word frustrating. It's been the challenge. Like we haven't been able to be consistent like we need to be. And I think we have some new guys in our top 7 or 8, and they just have to learn how to be consistent in the course of a half, in the course of a game. And so if there's been any of that you alluded to, it would be that with this team. I like our team. I like our guys. They're trying. They're good team guys. And I think we've gotten better in the last couple weeks.
Coach, obviously I got your game coming up against LMU on Tuesday night, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But I asked ESPN Research to tell me top winning percentages in college basketball over the last decade. You rank ahead of Duke. It's been truly remarkable. But when you inherited this job, it was the worst job in the WCC, and it wasn't even close. How have you turned this small little school in the East Bay of Northern California into a perennial power in college basketball, wearing home-colored uniforms in the NCAA tournament and producing pros?
It gets down to people. We've had good players, and I've had great staff. I mean, assistant coaches I've had that have gone on to be head coaches, and some of them that haven't yet. I have a great staff right now, so it gets down to the people, and we've had really good players that have bought into what we're trying to do, and into development and into being a team and trying to make something bigger than themselves as far as a program. So it's those things, and it's even like this year we have 3 seniors. They've been with us the whole time. I think you can still do that, and so we're fortunate enough to have Mitchell Saxon and Augustus Marcellonis and Luke Barrett, and just not everybody has that. But when you have that and they're bought into your team, which our players have been for a long time now, that's why we're able to do what we've been able to do. So it's it always gets back to the people that are in your program and working with you. So our program's improved as far as resources and all that, but that's taken years to get that done. But we have a little inch by inch, we've been able to do that.
You mentioned, Randy, some young guys, newer guys in your mix, because you like to have, I think your ideal teams, your best teams have a pretty tight rotation. You're going to play 7, 8 guys, lean on them. Yeah, I think your fans, I don't want to put words in their mouths, but Mahaney leaves and Jefferson leaves at the end of last year, and there might have been a little panic. There was no panic from you. And you've plugged in some new guys. Tell us about some of those new guys and how they're doing.
Yeah, so the two, we only have 3 seniors, and the rest are the other 12 guys we have 1 junior, and the other 11 are either freshmen or sophomore. So we're pretty young, and but we took 2 transfers because we did lose Aiden and Joshua, and we weren't really planning on that, but it happened, and that's kind of the nature of the beast nowadays. And so we had to adapt, and we ended up getting 2 real good ones. Paulus Marascus came from Arizona, and then Ashton Hardaway came from Memphis, and they're both in our top 8, and Paulus is starting, and Ashton's getting better. So it's and then we had 4 freshmen come in, and 2 of those are redshirt, and Liam Campbell, and our Oliver, our kid from Canada, Faubert, is those 2 are redshirting, and then we had Mikey Lewis, who is playing for us, and Josh Dent is an Australian kid who is playing in our probably top 9, and so we were, I think they're all good talents. We also had a kid sitting out, Andrew McKeever, who's in our top 9, 10. And so because we have that much new, it's taken us a little longer. We're still in the progress of figuring out, hey, who's our 8? Like, I do like to get it down to 8. And I would say it's 10 or 11 now, and it's changed. And some guys, it's what happens sometimes. Freshmen are coming on and they start making a move to get in that rotation. Usually we don't have that so much, but this year we do, because we have so many new ones that are getting used to our program, getting used to Division I basketball, getting used to going on the road, getting used to playing our league. So there's a lot of new for them, and you have to keep an eye on those guys, because they can turn into guys that can really help you. And that's kind of what's happening. I think Paulus has to keep getting better. He's a very good talent, and he just has to get experience. And Ashton has been coming on, and just he understands his role now, and he's really become a really good defender for us. So there's a lot of that going on, more than we usually have, and I guess that's just kind of how it is now, and I have to do a good job of adapting to that.
I close my eyes and I say to myself, the Gales defense, boy, it's stifling. Hasn't been stifling all season long, but the first 3 opponents in conference play, you've held under 60. That's a statement to who you are and what your program consistently does. Where are you at defensively with this group?
We have really improved in the last month, I would say. And I thought we had the area that I felt we were most stable in was rebounding. And then I think offense always takes the longest to get there, especially when you have that many new guys, and some of them are key scorers for you. But I knew that we had to get our defense more consistent. And I guess that was the area where we struggled, because we'd get up big, and then we'd give up threes. We gave up a lot of threes early, which we usually don't. And so we just had to keep improving defensively and get our guys to understand, and get them to understand that's how we're going to win. If we're going to win in this league, is to try and be the best defensive team in the league, and which we have been last 3 years, I think. So That's what we're trying to do. We have definitely improved, and I think from the start of the year till now, first 3 games, our numbers defensively weren't good, but we because of these guys, they bought in and they're trying to do what we asked. We've improved, and our leadership from our seniors has been really good. So that's what you have to do. You have to keep, it's one step, one punch, one round at a time, and we just keep talking to them about that, whether it's defense, offensive, rebounding. But the defensive piece has gotten better, and thus we have been more consistent as of late.
Dave, I know we've got to wrap up this interview with Randy Bennett, but I do have to ask this question because it was texted in from one Coach Bennett's wife via Twitter and said, Coach, we know you love hoop. We know you have your yellow notepads at every one of your shoot-arounds and mumble so the broadcasters can't hear what you're actually saying to your team at shoot-around. But what does Coach Bennett like to do in his free time? You have to like something other than just basketball. What is it?
I love the beach. I love going to the beach. I love getting in the water. That's probably my favorite thing to do as far as free time. Takes my mind off everything.
Are you a Hawaii guy?
I love Hawaii.
Okay, yeah,
love
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
I can see you in Hawaii. I can picture that.
Yep. San Diego does the trick.
All good spots.
Far flight, little less expensive.
Yeah, La Jolla, Maui, whatever. Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. As I get a little closer to retirement, I got to start transitioning into this golf thing and see if I can get my golf game back to decent.
Okay, you got a host in the Bay Area. If you ever want to tee it up, you know who to call.
I'll let you know. It's the day I retire.
Which we're not rooting for. We don't want you to go anywhere. We like watching your teams play.
Well, thanks.
And just a real quick final thought. We do have to let you go. But LMU, this show comes out on Tuesday, so you got LMU later tonight to start off your week. And LMU, am I right? LMU's kind of given you guys some trouble the last couple of years. I mean, I think they've played you pretty tough, haven't they?
Oh, for sure. They're good this year too. I think LMU has a good team. They're big. They can shoot it. They guard you hard. They play hard. Stan does a great job there. And so I think they're one of the top half teams in our league this year. It's hard to sort out who exactly those 6 are, but they're one of them.
Well, Farnham will be there. I won't. Show him some of your yellow pictures, your yellow sheets at shoot around, will you?
He just doesn't listen. I'm very clear about what our scout is. He's just over there goofing around.
John, those De La Salle guys. Those De La Salle guys, Coach.
Those De La Salle guys. They're pretty smart.
I'll see you in a few weeks, Randy, but thanks for giving us some time. We really appreciate it.
You guys are the best. You guys are legends. Appreciate you.
Legends in our own minds, that's for sure. See you, Randy. See you soon.
See you guys. Thanks. Take care.
Well, that was St. Mary's coach Randy Bennett. We're back here, just Sean and I. Look,
we made him laugh. Dave, that is not an easy task. We made him laugh and smile multiple times during a 6-minute interview.
And, when I call him Cranky Randy, I mean it as a compliment. I think there are some coaches who just are better when they're unhappy. And Randy's a happy guy, but when he has something to coach his team on, I think he likes that. And so I meant it really as a compliment. I think when you see him digging into his team and saying, here, we got to do this better. I'm not happy with this. I think it tells me that he likes his team. I think he really likes this group. He knows they have an upside. I'm actually really excited to see St. Mary's from now till the end of the year because it is a little different. I mean, I think you and I, at the end of last year, we sort of closed our eyes and thought, man, Gales won the regular season. They won the conference tournament. They went to the NCAA tournament. They got a little unlucky in terms of their draw and didn't play their best then.
Well, and also Joshua Jefferson was out with injury.
And he was out. And I think you and I both thought they're bringing this whole group back. Jordan Ross is getting better. And so that didn't exactly happen. he's had to retool a little bit, but I think ultimately the ceiling of this team is just about as high as it would have been if those guys had stuck around. I do.
You lose guys like that, you think that, there's going to be some bumps in the road. And maybe there has been a little bit because they have 3 losses, but all those 3 losses are to really good teams, by the way. And they have a significant win over Nebraska, which looks more significant every single day that Nebraska plays because that's a pretty darn good team as well that just beat UCLA and won the Diamond Head Classic. Fred Hoiberg's team's pretty good, and St. Mary's beat them on a neutral floor earlier this year. So that's very significant. I think to your point about Randy being cranky, we get to see behind the curtain, Randy, at these shoot-arounds, and we mock him, we make fun of him for the yellow notepad and the old school way. They don't print anything out. They all, it's really unique how they do it. It's old school, like before there were typewriters, old school. But it is how he functions, and he's a mad scientist. He really is. And if you talk to people in the coaching business, and you say, "Hey, I got a guard that really needs to understand how to read on-ball screens." The growth and development of all of his guards. I mean, and no clearer example, by the way, than Tommy Kuzi, who came in as a walk-on and ended with a two-way 10-day contract with the Orlando Magic. I mean, he took a walk-on and turned him into a guy that was in an NBA uniform. Like, that's how good of a coach Randy Bennett is. And, we get fans and relationships, and certainly the Gonzaga-St. Mary's relationship is one you and I hear both sides of every single time we're lucky enough to sit in that chair for that rivalry game. But if you don't appreciate what Randy Bennett has done, and it's not just the Aussie pipeline, it's all the other guys that have come through the program and really developed and really grown, I think you're missing that he's really a throwback, but an elite-level coach that took a program that had virtually no tradition and has turned it into a national power, a perennial top 25 ranked team. I know they're not right now, but off to a great start again here in conference play, sitting at 3-0.
I think they're going to be one of the best 25 teams in the country. I do.
Yeah.
I really believe that. So they're 3-0. Gonzaga's 3-0. Washington State is now 3-0. USF 3-1. Oregon State, Santa Clara each are 2-1. The 6 teams all have great metrics. It's definitely a deeper league this year, and part of that is because of Washington State and Oregon State.
Well, Dave, to that point, think about this. We mentioned it last week. As of right now, 6 teams are in the top 75 of the net ranking. Do you know that's the exact same number of teams that the ACC has? 6 in the top 75.
That's pretty amazing.
Okay, it's 3 more than the Atlantic 10. It's only 1 less than the Big East. It's 1 more than the Mountain West Conference and 5 more than the American. I mean, those numbers, and it's easy to say, well, it's early, still in conference play, things will change. Sure, they may change a little bit. But overall, the depth of this conference and the quality of this conference continues to allow the opportunity for Quad 1 and Quad 2 games. And that's what Washington State got this week when they got a significant home win in what was an absolute battle between USF and Washington State. And they got a significant Quad 2 victory on their home floor. And while that hurts San Francisco a little bit, it's not going to hurt them all that much because that was a Quad 1 game for them, a Quad 1 opportunity in conference play that didn't have Gonzaga or St. Mary's part of it. And that is why I think there's a lot of buzz and a lot of excitement about what potentially could be for the West Coast Conference as we really now are over a week into conference play.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that game. I wanted to spend a minute at least on that game because, USF didn't have Ryan Beasley, who's a big part of their team, so they were a little shorthanded, but Washington State's not crying for him. Washington State's had significant injury issues early in the year. Malik Thomas just got named WCC Player of the Year, Player of the Week again.
He might be Player of the Year. You might have misspoke, but it might end up being that way. That's how well he's been playing. I mean, his numbers, Dave, over the last 7 games, he's averaging over 25 points per contest.
He had 27 in the first half in Pullman. Now, the other part of that game is he made a 3 or whatever it was. I was watching the game back to score his 34th point with like 10 minutes to go. Didn't score after that.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see because Washington State then changed they changed the way they defend. They were basically swarming him when he touched the ball, After that, for the rest of that game, they were forcing him to give it up. And they went on like I forget what it was, a 15-1 run or something like that, and ended up taking control of the game. It'll be an issue for San Francisco if that keeps happening, that they're going to have to figure out. But my goodness, Malik Thomas is just playing he was a guy, you and I talked about him a lot last year. Like you're down in Southern California, that's where you live. He
Yep.
was a great high school player. And he started his career at USC, and they thought he was going to be a big part of their future. So the guy's got a pedigree, he's got a lot of talent, and man, is he blossoming.
Well, and to me, what stands out about him has been his efficiency. You look at the fact that he's shooting 50% from the field and 39% from three and 83% from the free throw line. It's where do you put him? And so you look at the scoring, and as I mentioned, last 7 games, over 25 points per contest. He's averaging better than 20 on the season, but it's not just the offense. It's his ability to be disruptive defensively. He's averaging over 2 steals per contest. He's playing at an all WCC Player of the Year level. And what's going to be necessity for that is that San Francisco is going to have to win some of these games. And they're going to have to knock off a St. Mary's. They're going to have to knock off a Gonzaga, an Oregon State on the road. Santa Clara, they already played, but they'll have another crack at them, I believe. Like there's
This weekend, they get Santa Clara down at Santa Clara right away, which is a huge game coming up this weekend.
And so he's got to be able to win those games to be able to garner the individual honor. And I think they're good enough to do it. And I think for Coach Gerlofson, his team has been very competitive ever since Todd Golden left. He's been able to maintain the positioning of the Dons, but the rich tradition of USF, they want to see themselves back in the NCAA tournament. And I think this team is good enough to do it because it's not just Malik Thomas. I mean, you talk about Marcus Williams and how well he's played and his ability to facilitate, his efficiency in which he's played with. Tyron Riley's been playing really well, rebounding the ball at almost 6 rebounds per contest. It's the collective part with the star. Now, the problem when you're a star, and we know this in college basketball, when you're the top line guy on the scouting report, teams will start to scheme for you differently. And when you play them once and you play them twice, they have a better understanding because they felt you, they've seen you, and they understand how they have to defend you. And I thought that Washington State did a really good job of basically saying, okay, anybody but you. If we lose this game, we're going to lose the game, but we're not going to let you get 45 or 50 points because that's what he was tracking to for a large portion of that game. And they said, let's go make somebody else beat you. And that didn't happen. And they ended up taking the loss. And it should be noted, too, Washington State's won, 4 games in a row now? I mean, playing really good basketball. And as great as an individual performance as that was for Malik Thomas, Watts was fantastic with 24 points and 12 rebounds for Washington State, just a sophomore. And you talk about a program that has a new coach that's trying to find their identity and their footing in this conference. I think Washington State's done a really good job, and they're staring at a matchup with Gonzaga not too far off in the distant future here.
Yeah, we're going to talk about. Let's talk about that game in a minute because Washington State, we might have to devote an episode to them because especially since there's a little less familiarity. They're 13-3. They're 3-0. They go to Spokane. 70 miles up the highway from Pullman. It is a cool side story that they are now conference rivals because they are so close. That game against San Francisco, 88 of their 91 points came from their starters.
Yeah.
And look, they've had some injuries. So what do? You tighten things up. You lean on your guys. So there's some meat there with Washington State that you and I are going to have to get into. I wanted to ask you one thing else about last week's games because you go box score surfing in the early part of the year. You're kind of getting into the flow of the college hoop season, conference season. And, some of the stalwarts have been, what did Randy say to us? Inconsistent.
Yeah.
Graham EK hasn't quite dominated the way that I thought he was going to dominate this year. Goose Marciulionis kind of been up and down. I looked at Saturday's games. St. Mary's and Gonzaga dominate on Saturday. Graham EK, 27 points. I think he played 25 minutes, shot 12 of 16. Marshallonis bounced back from a tough shooting game. He scores 20 on Saturday. Like, those are the guys to me. Like, if Malik Thomas is going to get pushed, there's some other candidates, but certainly those guys are right up there, and they both played really, really well.
Well, I think Ryan Nembhard too has to be there, just
Sure.
based on the fact he leads the nation in assists and how well he's protected the ball for the better part of the entire season. But I think that's kind of like where we thought we would be. Like, I mean, you start conference play in the WCC and you go, okay, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, they're going to get off to good starts because they always do. And who's joining them, who's with them, who's running with them. And, for Oregon State, we thought Oregon State was going to be one of those teams. We talked to Wayne Tinkle last week. I still think they will be. But to your point, when we were talking to Randy Bennett, man, did they stub their toe at LMU. I mean, they didn't get beat. They got drubbed.
Yeah.
And that was
Oregon
very,
State.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Oregon State allowed LMU to shoot 51% from the field against a top 20 scoring defense in all of college basketball. I mean, Oregon State's defense, I've seen it up close and personal, really, really good. The Oregon State ducks in and plays through the paint every single possession. They got beat by plus 12 in the paint by the Lions. The Lions shot 42% from beyond the arc. And Porter was absolutely dominating with 22 points and 13 rebounds. And again, I get it. This is a team in LMU that won the Cancun Challenge. They beat Nevada. They beat Santa Barbara, and now they get a big win against Oregon State. Yeah, they've got some blemishes. And yeah, they struggle to score the basketball at times, and they get very few offensive rebounds, and they don't block anyone's shots, and they don't create a lot of steals, every single time they go out and play. But Stan Johnson's got this team battling. And they've got some guys, I mentioned Porter, but you look at Will Johnston, and that guy's been playing great basketball. Last two games, 50% from the field, better than 50% from three, averaging 19 points per game, basically, in those two games last week. I mean, this conference is fun, and these games are going to be ultra competitive. You go on the road in this conference, there's very few places you can circle and say, hey, that's going to be a surefire win. And I think that's going to be the challenge for this conference, because as you and I mentioned and say, hey, how many teams get in the NCAA tournament, which is what we'll be building up to. We'll be building up to Las Vegas and the West Coast Conference tournament. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're a big enough fan that you're going to be coming. But we need more students there. Each school needs to do a better job of getting more kids there, because it's a great event. But as we build up towards that, Dave, by the time you get to Las Vegas, you want to enter Las Vegas if you're the WCC going, we got at least 3 teams in, maybe 4 teams already in the NCAA tournament. For that to happen, and I mentioned this last week, there needs to be separation in the conference. There needs to be separation. And that means that games like that LMU wins and beats Oregon State's got to go make that up now by winning on the road somewhere against one of those top tier teams, whether it's Gonzaga, whether it's a St. Mary's, whether it's, they got to go on the road and they got to win a game there to make up for the loss that they took last week to LMU.
Yeah. Let's make a note. We're going to do a Vegas episode before we get to Vegas, but
oh my gosh. Can we describe what you and I do in Vegas every single time in that episode?
Well, no, we can't describe all of it, but we can describe some of it.
Okay.
Because I do think the point you just made is a valid one. Like, we do need the fan support there is excellent. The students are missing out, and it's a weird time of year. A lot of students are on. Anyway, we're going to do an episode on that. I've just earmarked that.
Should we call like all our hotel friends, our favorite card dealer, the Circle Bar at the Park MGM?
A lot of guests. That would be a guest-heavy episode that week.
By the way, Dave, you know what I did this week?
What?
I went snowmobiling for the first time in my life.
Not snowboarding, snowmobiling.
No. Yes.
Where'd you do that?
I did it at Mammoth. I had a couple days off, and we had some friends that have a cabin up there, and they took us up to Mammoth. And first of all, beautiful. I've never been to Mammoth before. Definitely highly recommend it. But we went on this amazing...
Mammoth versus Tahoe.
It's been a long time since I've been to Tahoe, Dave.
Come on. You're a Northern California at heart. Come on.
But this was super fun.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Okay.
Tell me what you...
I got my youngest son, Kellen, on my back. And we go out and they do a couple of test runs around where you get your snowmobile. And then they take you out for 2 miles through the forest on this trail. And it's absolutely quiet. It's gorgeous. The snow, the trees, everything, just picturesque, beautiful. And they get you to this open field and they go, all right, let it rip. You can go from here to here, there to there, NASCAR style, no right turns, all left turns. And I got my little man behind me, my 13-year-old. We got up to 47 miles per hour on the snowmobile. It was so much fun. He was screaming. He was yelling. I got pictures up on Instagram. So if you're listening, you can go to my Instagram account. You can see the pictures. But little man had such a good time behind me as we were ripping it up through the snow. And then you go all the way up to the top of this cliff, and it sees out over all the mountains. And you're up there in this vista, and it just take your breath away, kind of fun. Have you ever snowmobiled?
Never one time.
It is fun. You and your family would absolutely love it. I'm telling you.
How about this? If somebody's listening in Spokane or the Spokane area, we know we have lots of listeners up there, viewers. When you and I go up there, there'll be snow in Spokane. Like we could carve out if somebody's offering.
Oh, we have people.
A bunch of you's got to have a whole stable full of snowmobiles, doesn't he?
Phil McCarthy probably does somewhere, and if not, I can just ask him to buy us two, and then we'll go out and use it for the weekend and give it back to
him. Did we run out of time already? Geez. I wanted to like we need to do a better job probably of previewing. So okay.
Wait, did we already do 16 minutes?
We used it up. We got to
God, you and I talk too much. By the way, most people that listen to our games would say the same thing.
One of us does. So you got LMU at St. Mary's, important game. LMU plays St. Mary's tough. That is no easy win. How about the weekend for Santa Clara? Santa Clara gets Oregon State, and then they get USF, both at home. Two big games for the Broncos, who have won 7 of 8. They're playing really well. And then Washington State goes to Spokane and takes on the Zags. 30 seconds before we wrap up on those games.
Yeah, no, it is. It's going to be a great weekend. I think that no bigger weekend for an individual team, more so than Santa Clara at home. Both those are huge opportunities.
Huge.
And if you get both of them on your home floor and you protect your home floor, which every good conference race, they'll tell you win your games at home, try to split on the road, and you're going to be pretty good. And I think in the WCC that rings true this year. But for Santa Clara, they've got to protect their home floor this week, and especially after taking the loss to USF. I'm really excited to get to the Bay Area and see St. Mary's up close and personal. I think they're playing a lot better. I love, and that's why I asked the question to Randy about their defense. I think their defense is really looking like it's back to the form in which I expect. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the entire country, in particular on the offensive glass, where they average over 40% of their own misses they're able to corral, which gives them more possessions over the course of the game. And we know how they like to squeeze the basketball and limit possessions for their opponent. But Jordan Ross, to me, is kind of the key to this team, Dave. I'm going to be honest with you. You know what you're going to get usually out of Augustus Marshallonis. You know what you're getting out of Mitchell Saxon. Luke Barrett has taken a really big step forward. But you've always needed production from that second guard. And I think it's Jordan Ross that you need to count on a night in, night out basis to help them if they're going to have a chance to win the WCC championship this year.
Yeah, well said. So if you're listening to this, watching this podcast, maybe LMU St. Mary's is happening or has happened. We got a Tuesday game in the conference. We got a Wednesday game. We got the Thursday games. We got Saturday night matchups. And then you will get back together. And who knows what the heck you'll have done between now and then. You went snowmobiling between episodes 1 and 2. Who knows?
Well, I think we're going to go to a high school basketball game. I've got an American Cancer Society gala on Thursday. So, I mean, before we talk next week, we're going to have plenty of things to dive into.
All hoops for me after this. I got one last football.
Please come back to me, Dave. Come back to me.
One. I'm in Texas recording this. One last game in football country, and then it'll be all hoops after this.
Well, you're a hell of a good broadcaster, which reminds me, this podcast is brought to you by Hell of a Good Dip. Make sure you pick up Hell of a Good Dip.
It's the best sponsor. I'm so happy about our sponsor. I really am. It's because it's awesome. All right, so we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about next week. Until then, enjoy Moraga on Tuesday night.